Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's presentation on filing your FAFSA line-by-line overview. My name is Amy Sloan, and I am a Higher Education Access Partner for FIA. There is 13 of us out here that take care of certain counties, and our goal is to create an affordable education for our families. So this is one of the presentations I love to do and I will be recorded and can send it to you, and afterwards we can send you a copy of the PowerPoint, anything you would like. My contact information will be at the end, and I want you to know that, there's help out there for you. Don't be afraid to ask for it. This is going to be a huge investment for you and your child, and we want to make it as easy as possible to walk you through this process. So let's start with, we'll advance. This is what we want to talk about today. I'm going to talk to you about how you create your FSA ID, how to complete the FAFSA form, and then I'll give you some really good resources at the end that are very helpful to you. In the Q&A box, if you have a question, go ahead and put it in there, and I would be happy to answer those. Might wait till the end, and I'll stop the recording, so then, or maybe I'll just keep it going, but maybe periodically I'll look over there if I can, just to see if any questions pop up. These are the certified browsers that the Department of Education recommends that you use to complete the FAFSA form. So if you're having problems when you're attempting to do it, maybe make sure you're in one of these browsers, and hopefully you won't. You can see my system is very slow today. Okay, the first thing you have to do before you sit down to do your FAFSA form is create an FSA ID account. So who needs a FAFSA form? It's the student that's going to college and one parent in the household. So basically, this is a legal signature for both you and your child. We never obviously want your social security number. So if you haven't already done so, create a folder, label it financial aid, put everything we talk about tonight. Today, I will send you a copy of the presentation. The website's there on the screen. Where you're going to create that FSA ID is studentaid.gov. And if you put in the /FSA-ID, it'll take you right to the page that you need to go to. And it'll take you through the 7 processes. And I'm going to show you a little example. So when you get to the screen, when you type in that web, you're going to get a screen looks like this. You're going to click on create an FSA ID. And then you're going to go through, there's like 5 steps. Make sure that you write it down so you don't forget it. And this is a good opportunity to get your child really involved, have them create their own FSA ID. And I highly recommend that if they can, to create an email account that they just use for financial aid purposes, scholarship applications, anything to do with college, because then to make sure you're looking at that email and doing what needs to be done. You'll find out through this process that very little things come in the mail. Everything's going to be through email. So as you could see, it's going to ask username and password. And sometimes, don't get frustrated. The other night I was doing a FAFSA session and the poor lady, the poor mom had a hard time getting a username to work because remember, this is used all across the country. So it might be hard. Do something that's not common and you might be able to create it easier. And then you'll just go through these sections. So there's personal information and contact information. You'll do your challenge questions, you'll confirm, and then complete. So those are the sections you'll go through. And again, the student and one parent in the household needs an FSA ID. This is just a cheat sheet showing you the information you'll need when you sit down to do your FAFSA form. So all senior parents will be doing the 23-24 FAFSA form, and you'll be supplying 2021's income tax information. So it's a good idea to have your tax form and your W-2s in front of you. And then if you have to supply your asset information, it's the day you're filling it out. So what's in your checking account, savings account, stuff like that. When you get to the FAFSA, there are 7 steps, which are on the right-hand side. You can log in as a student or parent. As a student, there'll be a disclaimer. You're going to pick which application year. So you want to make sure you do the 23-24. We'll have you create a safe key, and then there's some introduction steps, and we'll go through those here in a minute. This is the website that everything's out. This is like a one-stop shop. So the studentaid.gov website, it's been 3 or 4 years that they put everything at this site, which is really nice, but sometimes it's hard to find what you're looking for. That's why I told you, like when you created your FSA ID, to go to the direct spot to put that backslash FSA-ID because it'll take you right there. The first time you do it, I know a lot of families are overwhelmed because there are over 100 questions, but just remember the first year, a lot of times is the hardest. And then we transfer everything for you like in the following years, and you just have to update. Some of you will get more questions than others because of skip logic. If we don't need a question answered, we don't ask it. So some of you might get 60 or 70 questions. Some of you might get a few more. This is something that your student has to fill out every year. So remember that. And this is the site that they will do their loan application, when they start repayment, everything's at studentaid.gov. So like I said earlier, if you, at the top, as you can see, there's the webpage for you at studentaid.gov/FAFSA. It'll take you directly to where you need to go. So you'll get a screen that looks like this, new to the FAFSA process, which a lot of you will be. So you'll click on Start Here. And then when you get to the Welcome to this page, this confuses a lot of families because you can log in as a student or the parent. We highly recommend that you have your student sitting beside you when you do the FAFSA form and log in as a student and have them put in their FSA ID and password because you can get the whole thing done at one time. If they're not their parents, you can, I am the parent filling out the FAFSA for a student, check that box. So once the student would click on I am a student, you're going to get the option to log in. And the first thing you'll see is they have to put in their FSA ID and password to continue. And the nice thing about that is if you have that with you, parents, it puts a lot of that information in the first section, which I'll show you here in a minute. So you'll get, let's get started. There will be your choices. So remember, the 22-23 FAFSA form is still going to be online, but you want to make sure you click on the 23-24. One thing you're going to have to do is create a safe key. And as this just allows, it's like a backup. So if you have to get out or you get kicked off the site, which does happen sometimes, this is another security. So make sure you write your safe key down because you're going to have to tell us what it is when you get back in. I always tell families a lot of times use the name of the student that you're applying for financial aid for, because then that's an easy way to remember. There'll be an introduction page, and that just provides you a lot of information. You obviously do not have to click on every arrow and read it. But if you have a question, you might want to look through those. Then you go down to the bottom and hit continue. And then this is what you see first. And you can see at the top of the form, the navigation bar, it tells you exactly what section you're in. So just remember to always look up there because a lot of times parents get confused on who's supposed to be answering the questions. A tip is it's the student's application, parent, and you're providing your information. And as you can see, we start with the student demographics. So if the student had their FSA ID created prior, this is going to populate in there as soon as they put it on there. You're going to get to the school section. So, student email section. So this email should be obviously what they used when they created their FSA ID. And basically, you're just going to go through and make sure everything's correct. Their address is going to be pulled over from when they created their FSA ID. Then they're going to get to the residency question. So have you lived in Pennsylvania for at least 5 years? When you check yes to that box, if you can check yes to that box, you're a U.S. citizen, you're going to get in the next screen is right there to your right. It says you're eligible to transfer your FAFSA information into the Pennsylvania State Grant application. That's just telling you at the end, and I'll show you at the end where you do that because you're a Pennsylvania resident, you're going to want to answer those additional questions that we need answered. And again, I'll show you that when we get to the end on the confirmation page. You come to the student section about the education. So we're asking, obviously most of them are going to say high school diploma, but as you can see, if you just click on the, there's an arrow key down, they'll give you the options. Then another good point is if you click on the question mark after each question, it gives you additional information maybe to help you figure out what they're asking for if you get confused. What college degree or certificate? Most seniors right out of high school are going to be first year bachelor's degree or maybe going for a 2-year degree. There's, again, options. Will you have your first bachelor's degree before you begin? Absolutely not. For some reason, a lot of kids get confused on that. So no, they will not have their bachelor's degree yet. They're just going to have their high school diploma. What will your college grade level be? Most of them, well, all of them are going to be never attended, first year college. And then the question is, are you interested in work study? We always recommend, and this is just a test record you see, work study is a job on campus. So I always tell students, check yes. And then if you're eligible, check it out. Maybe you won't want to go work a work study job, but it is a really good opportunity to meet people, make a little bit of extra spending money for you. So parents, you don't have to send it to them. And then the next question will be the driver's license. A lot of times, sometimes you don't have that. This is optional. So if you don't have the driver's license with you, this doesn't stop you from continuing with the FAFSA form. You can hit continue. And then we get into the foster care questions. Are you a foster youth or were you in foster care? And then the questions there that you see is what's the highest school completed by parent one and parent two? And this is the biological parents, and this is used for statistical purposes. So if a student knows, we appreciate if they answer those questions based on their biological or adoptive parents. And as you can see on this screen, after so many screens, the application is going to automatically save. So that tells you there the application was successfully saved. We're going to ask you to put in your high school. And just a tip, the easiest way to search for a high school is usually by state and city. Sometimes the way you're going to type in the high school name might not be the way the Department of Education has it in there. So I always tell family, just put in the city and the state that your high school's in, and it'll pop up and you'll click on it to let us know that was your high school. And then you get to the school section. And students are allowed to list up to 10 colleges on their FAFSA form. Next year, actually, that's going to increase, I think, to 20. We always highly recommend that students, I'll just give you my little spiel on this, apply to more than one college. When I'm in the classroom talking to students, we usually say, try to apply to at least 3 to 5 so you have options. Because I've seen many times that a lot of students only put one college, and then when they get the financial aid notification on what financial aid they're going to get, they realize they really can't afford that school. So you want to have options. Okay. So when you're searching for colleges, again, the easiest way I think to search for colleges is by city and state. You don't have to take the time to look up the college's federal code, just city, state, and then the colleges will pop up. And then you click on the college that you're interested in. And then they're going to get to the housing status. So every college that you tell us you're interested in, we're going to ask you to select your housing plan. So it's either going to be on campus, which living in the dorms, off campus, which an apartment maybe that you're paying for separately. And most freshmen that go away to school have to live on campus the first year. And then if they're going to commute, that would be with a parent. And again, you can add as many schools as you like, up to 10, and you'll tell us the housing status for each one. So if you're looking at the navigation bar at the top, now you can see we're in the dependency questions. So we've completed the student demographics, the school selections, and now we're in the dependency status questions for the student. So student marital status, what's your marital status? And most students obviously are going to put single. And then do you student have dependents? So just remember, this is the student section, parents, because a lot of times parents think it's questions. These are questions for the parent, but you're still in the student section. So go through and answer those. And then, are you currently serving in the military? Are you a veteran? Since you turned 13, were your parents deceased? So these are the questions that we ask to determine if a student is dependent or independent. Most students are going to say none of the above. And then we ask the homeless question. So as of July 1, 2022, were you homeless? And then after they answer all those dependency questions, they're going to get a screen that looks like this. And based on their answers for this particular example, this student would be dependent. So they are required to give us the student's information or their parents' information. So they'll click on that box. I will provide my parents' information, and they continue. And then whose information should I provide? So this is just a little cheat sheet, and the next screen gives you some more information. So what FIA looks at, and I'll just show you the screen now, is we want the parent that the student lives with more than 50% of the time. So it doesn't matter who claims the student. We want the biological parent. If student lives with both biological parents, their information goes on the form. If parents are divorced or separated, living in separate homes, they would list the parent that they live with more than 50% of the time. So my example I usually use a lot is if student lives with mom during the week and dad on the weekends, mom's information would go on the form. If mom is remarried, mom and stepdad's information would go on the form. So we never want a foster parent, a legal guardian, anyone else the student is living with. That would be a special circumstance. So that's whose information we want put on the FAFSA form. So then now we're in the parent demographic section. So as of today, what's the parent's marital status? So they would, for this example, it's married or remarried, and then we asked what year. And then this is a good point. You want to remember which parent is parent one and parent two. A lot of times I tell families, whichever parent gets the FSA ID, if it's a two-parent home, you might just want to put parent one, that parent as parent one, because at the end, we're going to ask you which parent has the FSA ID. And a lot of times parents forget who they put first. So that's just a little tip. So starting with the first parent, you give us all their information and their email address. And then you put the other parent's information. And then state of legal residence, have your parents lived in Pennsylvania for at least 5 years. And that again is to determine if a student's going to qualify for the state grant. So you would answer that question. And then when you get to the other dependents, this sometimes confuses families. So parents, remember, and it says right up there at the top, do not include yourself, which means the student that you're filling out the application for. Okay, so that student that's going in college. So when you answer these questions, it says how many other dependent children do your parents have? So if there's a brother and sister, or just a brother for this example, you would put one. Then they're asking how many other dependents do your parents have? That would be maybe a grandparent living with them, or a friend, whoever else that they might be supporting. You could put them as in the household. And then the next screen will tell you, okay, so the student is one, there's two parents in this household. You said you had the one other sibling, and then maybe a grandpa or grandma or grandpa living with you. So the total household would be 5. Number in college, a lot of times that answer is just going to be 1. Then we're at the parent financials. So we do parent financials first and then the students. So parents filing status, so you would check whatever you filed. This example is they've already completed, which most people have, because you're giving us prior year's income. So that's 2021. Tell us what form, what your status was, and then you get the question, do you want to use the IRS data retrieval tool? So what we have done is partnered with the IRS. So this is a really good tool, and we recommend that you use it because we are going to pull your information right from the IRS's site, which we can't pull everything, which I'll show you, but most of the information can be pulled right over. So if you click on the button, proceed to the IRS, we're going to ask you, is it okay? Do you give us permission? And as long as you say proceed to the IRS, it's going to take you to that screen, and it's going to say, okay, which parent has the FSA ID, and you're going to supply that, and then we will go right over to the IRS. It'll take you right to the IRS site. It's going to look like this. And the reason that we recommend that you have a copy of your taxes with you is because you're going to have to fill in your address information. So if you have your tax form sitting there, it's a lot easier. And remember, it's what address is on your 21 taxes. If you've moved in 22 or 23, you don't want to put that address because it has to match that tax form. So you would hit submit, and then we give you one more option. You want to transfer my tax information into the IRS. So you would click on that little box that gives us permission to do that. And when you hit transfer now, we're going to pull that information. However, sometimes families can't use the IRS data retrieval tool. One example would be if maybe in 21 you were married and filed jointly with your husband or spouse, and then now you're divorced. So in that situation, or separated, in that situation, you're not going to want to use the IRS data retrieval tool. Okay. Another reason would be maybe at some point your Social Security number was compromised, and they would not let you use the IRS data retrieval tool. But don't panic. If you can't use the IRS data retrieval tool, we're telling you exactly what line. So this screen is saying, okay, as you can see, it says, what's your parent adjusted gross income from 21? And we're telling you exactly where to get that. On the 1040, it's line 11. So if it doesn't transfer for you, don't panic, because we're going to walk you through it. Why we recommend you have your W-2s is because one thing that can't be pulled is the separation of parents of a two-income home. So we're going to ask you how much did parent one make and how much did parent two make. And you can get that on your W-2s as well as they're giving you the instructions right there. It's a lot easier if you have your W-2s because you can look right on that and see what your income was. Okay, so if you indicated that your parents filed a 1040, if the only reason they filed a 1040 was because they had unemployment compensation or educational expenses, you want to make sure you tell us that. And then this is a simplified determination because a lot of times, depending on a family's income, a lot of questions are eliminated. Like, remember, I told you there's built-in edits and skip logic. So you might not have to answer a lot of the additional questions. And then we may say to you, do you want to skip the remaining questions about your parents' income and assets? If you get that option, you could check yes. I don't know why this example says no, but I would check yes to that and move on. And again, that happens. That screen might pop up. It's all going to depend on what your income is. So parent additional IRS information. So this is some information that we always recommend you go through every, excuse me, you go through every question and make sure there's an answer so you can see, and there are amounts of your income tax for 21. And then when you get to the questions about, look through them. Most of these are going to be zeros, but make sure you look through them. And how you know that a question was transferred over from the IRS is right in that answer box. It's going to say transfer from the IRS. So a lot of times, just go through these questions, look them over. Do your parents on this screen, do your parents have any of the following items? Child support your parents paid. A lot of times that might have to be answered. Untaxed income, that would be, we cannot transfer untaxed income from the IRS. So this is an area you want to pay really good attention to. The first box is child support received, housing, food, or living allowance from military or clergy. The one that most people need to answer is the third question: payments to tax deferred pensions and retirement savings. So just know we never want the value of a retirement, but sometimes we need to know what you contributed in 2021, depending on what type of pension you have. So we're telling you to look on your W-2s in box 12. So if you have a code D, E, F, G, or H, and S, that amount has to be put on in there. You don't report code DD. So it's just depending on what you have. So pay attention to that one. And then the very last one, other untaxed income not reported, just know that you don't include untaxed Social Security benefits or supplemental security income. We'd like to point that out because sometimes families think that they have to include that. And then if you have to put your assets, it's the day you're filling out the form. So as of today, what is your parents' current total balance of cash savings and checking account? As of today, what's some of your investments? And then as of today, if you own a business, some of the value of that. Just pay attention that if you do own a business and you have less than 100 employees, you don't have to include your business assets. And this is just a cheat sheet I put in here, what is an asset and what's not an asset. So when you're looking at it, cash, savings, checking account, like we said, stocks and bonds, mutual funds. If you have a 529 plan for your child, that would be an asset if it's in your name. And if you have more than one child that you have a 529 for, all of them would have to be put as an investment. And also pay attention to what doesn't have to be reported. You don't have to put the value of your home. As I already said, the value of your retirement accounts, life insurance policies. A lot of times, probably one of the biggest errors some families make is they do put the value of their primary home. But just know, you don't have to do that. But if you have rental properties, a vacation home, a camp in the mountains, that would be an additional asset that you would have. So that's like a little cheat sheet of what we're looking for. And then just know, we finished the student, we finished the parents' income section, and then you move to the student. I wasn't going to show all the same screens again, but if your student worked in 2021, you will do the same thing. You can pull the information from the IRS complete those questions, and then the student also has to tell us what their assets are. As of today, what do they have? Okay. And as you can see, we're almost at the end. We're at the sign and submit, which is the very last section. So the first thing that they're going to offer you is a summary of everything that you told us on the pages, and you just keep scrolling down and look at everything. And then this year they put in a survey. The Department of Education, this is optional for the student, but they're using this information for demographic surveys, just to pull some numbers. So if your child would answer those, that'd be great. If they choose not to, they don't have to. And then you get to the agreement of the terms, and this is basically saying that everything you told us is accurate and complete. And don't panic, parents. If you make an error, or after you submit your FAFSA form, you're sitting there thinking, oh, I forgot I had that CD. You can always go in and make a correction out of college. So don't panic if you forget something. And this is where the student will say yes, click the box that they understand everything they told us is the truth, and the parent, you will do the same thing. And then you get to the sign and submit page. So the student's going to sign with their FSA ID. And then again, on the right, you can see parent 1 or parent 2, whichever one has the FSA ID is going to sign. And then you're relieved, because then you get a confirmation page that looks like this. It's going to say, congratulations, you've successfully submitted your federal student aid. We didn't show you the whole screen, but just know, families, that there's a lot of good information on that confirmation page. And it also is emailed to all the students, so you have it. You don't have to print it. They will have it. It does give them some really good information of what Pell Grant they might be, the amount of a Pell Grant they might be eligible for. And then it also tells them that they qualify for the direct loan. And it gives good information about the colleges. On the right-hand side, remember I told you there's Pennsylvania residents, you have to answer a few additional questions. This is where you can do that. Right on that confirmation page, you click on that little apply now, and it's going to take you right to a form. And you're going to literally, it'll take you like 5 minutes. Just answer some additional questions about how long you lived here, your 529. If you had a 529 for state grant purposes, we don't use that against you if it was a PA 529, so we'll pull that back out of our formula. You only have to do this once. I get a lot of questions on that because parents will call me the second year and say, Amy, I didn't get that. Well, you don't. You just, once we have the information, we have it. If for some reason that link doesn't work, don't worry, because within 3 days, 3 to 5 days, we're going to send an email to your student that says, hey, we got your FAFSA information. Now go into your FIA. Go to FIA, create an account, which they'll have to do that also at www.fia.org. And if they do it right from the link, we're going to give them that option as you're answering those questions. But it's really important that they create that account because, again, they need to make a change or correction. So when we do, this is a good reminder for me to tell you, when we calculate a state grant, we're going to calculate it on the first school that the student listed on the FAFSA form. So say they put WVU, and when it comes down to it, they're going to go to Pitt. They would need to go back. They would need to go into their record at FIA and change their school choice. So it's really important that they also create that record at FIA.org so they can update us. And again, families know that you can contact me anytime. If you send me an email, you can send me the student's name and date of birth. I can bring their account up. I can tell you what school's listed. We can walk you through that. So there's there's a lot of help out there to walk you through this. Okay, special circumstance. So I had said that you have to put 2021's income information on the form. However, if one of these things have happened, divorced or separated, your income has gone down from 2021, you want to reach out to the financial aid office at the college that your student decides to go to. And they will have reduction of income forms. We call them special circumstance forms, as well as FIA does. So we can send you those forms, and we can reevaluate based on 22 or 23's income, whichever one the school uses. Everybody might be a little bit different, and then we can reevaluate. But initially, you have to send it in with 21's income. Okay, I just like to let families know that there are some special circumstances, and we will look at that. Okay, what you could be doing now, hopefully you're doing all of this. Visit the college's websites, create your FSA ID, get that FAFSA form done. And my rule of thumb is, as long as you have a student in college, you want to get that FAFSA form done by Thanksgiving. I always tell my families that. There's net price calculators on every college's website. And what that does, it gives you a pretty good idea of what the cost is at that school. Talk about what's affordable and explore scholarships. Your students, please, please, please encourage them to reach out to their guidance counselors and get scholarship information. There's a lot of free money out there. I know students are busy. A lot of times they don't want to take the time. And I don't want to go off on a spiel because I could talk about scholarships for 15 minutes, but just know that have them reach out to their guidance counselors and start looking for scholarships. These are a lot of the resources I talked about today. Our website, studentaid.gov, College Board, FastWeb, all really good tools for you to have. And I'm looking at my Q&A and I don't see questions. Did anybody put anything in the chat? Oh, okay. Some of you put stuff in the chat, so let me go through here. That's why nobody could hear me. Okay. I'm sorry that the audio was going in and out. I apologize. Technology, you gotta love it. Some days it's great. Some days it's not. I see a question here. Do earned scholarships limit future federal and state aid? They do not. If your student qualifies for a Pell Grant and a state grant, it's going to get sent directly to the school. However, this is a really good question. Students can't receive more than the cost of the education. So say, for example, I think it's better to give you an example. Say, and in that cost that the schools give us is room and board, tuition and fees, living allowance, book allowance, all that tech fees. So usually the cost, it might look a little bit higher when you see it on a financial aid notification. So if they're getting a scholarship, maybe they're getting, I don't know, maybe $16,000 scholarship, then they get a little bit of a Pell Grant or a state grant. They'll get all that. They just can't get more aid than the cost. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. And we can talk about this or you can give me a call, but no, most of the time this doesn't happen. So I'm hoping I'm answering your question. But if a student's eligible for a Pell Grant or a state grant, it's going to get sent to the college and the school is going to determine, and they're in charge of making sure the student doesn't get more aid than what the actual cost was. Maybe that explains it better. Is property used for a business with one employee? No. If you have less than 100 employees, you do not have to put your business assets. So that would be a no. I think I've answered everything in the chat. Oh, wait. Does the FAFSA need to be filled out if we don't qualify for aid? This is a great question. I'm so glad you asked this. So a lot of times I get that. Students, families will come up to me and say, we make $200,000. We're not going to qualify for any of the free money. Why should we fill out the FAFSA? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but I'll give you a few. Sometimes things change in a household. So you might not qualify now. And we found that out through COVID. A lot of families' incomes plummeted. And that would have been a special circumstance, and we can look at that. If you want your student to get the direct loan that all students qualify for, no matter what your income is, they have to fill out the FAFSA form. And scholarships. A lot of scholarship applications are going to require proof that you filled out your FAFSA form. So, my colleagues and I, we are real big on just fill it out because you never know what might happen down the road. And I know, the first time it's a little bit sometimes rocky and families get frustrated, but please know that you could always give us a call. We'll walk you through it. We can't make you fill out the FAFSA form, but we really do recommend that families fill it out. When should we expect a response back on available based aid? Okay, so the process is you fill out the FAFSA form. As long as your student has applied and been accepted at the colleges that you listed on the FAFSA form, you will get a financial aid award notification. Colleges primarily start sending those out in December. Private schools might be a little bit earlier, but those usually don't start coming out till December. Now, for FIA purposes, we don't process awards till May. However, the colleges all have our calculator. So if your student's going to qualify for a FIA state grant, it will be on that financial aid notification that you will get from the colleges. And, don't be afraid to ask. If December or January comes and you haven't heard anything back from the colleges, shoot them an email or give them a phone call. How will students and families be notified on what offers are available from a college? Basically, you're going to get that financial aid notification from the college once you, like I just said, once you fill out your FAFSA form, that they'll send you that notification letting you know exactly what you qualify for. And that's why I always tell families to apply to at least 3 to 5 colleges, because back in the day, I always tell this story. 10 years ago, when my son was starting this process, I had him apply at like 4 or 5 different colleges. And then, we looked at each one, see who's giving you the best deal, the most, free money. And one tip that I was, don't not let your child apply to private school because you think you can't afford it, because private schools have $1 billion a year to give away. So based on academics, if you go to a private school's financial aid page, a lot of times they have a chart that says, okay, if you have a 4.0 or higher, you're going to get this much every year, or 3.8 to 4.0. So that's why we always want kids to have options and not put all their eggs in one basket. All right, I don't see anything. Let me give you this screen. I want to make sure all of you have my. Oh, let me first tell you this. If you're looking for more information, there is a bunch of brochures on our website that you can go to. You're more than welcome to order anything you want. My suggestion would be, you could also send your child into the guidance counselor's office, because they have like a student aid guide that it's like the Bible of financial aid that we always recommend students take. And it talks about all the programs. They will have an FSAID bookmark that walks you right through how to create that. So there's a lot of good information in the counselor's offices, but you're more than welcome to go to our website and order anything you'd like. We are all over social media. This year, there's a big FAFSA initiative to try to get families to get these FAFSA forms in. Last year, they thought millions of dollars was lost nationwide because a lot of kids don't fill out the FAFSA form. Pennsylvania does pretty well, but a lot of other states do not. So you'll see us all over social media. And then there is my contact information. So please, take a picture of that. I will be able to print a report. I might not be able to print it till tomorrow to see who attended. And I'm off tomorrow. So on Monday, I will send you, or later this afternoon if I get it, a copy of the presentation. I can send you the recording, and I can also send you, I'm a very hands-on person. So if you want me to, I can send you a PDF copy of the FAFSA form so you have it. So you know what questions we're asking, and the directions are all in there. So I always think that's helpful also. Okay, so hopefully you found this helpful. If, again, reach out to me with any questions you have. Don't hesitate. I'd be glad to be your resource person to get you through this process. We can also set up a time if you work during the day. I'd be glad to help you. And good luck to all of you and your children. Best of luck. Have a great weekend.